I didn't see any of them for the next 2 days. Mrs. Willow left early and returned late, barely speaking beyond brief, cold exchanges. The girls spent their days with a nanny who arrived each morning, a stern older woman who didn't encourage conversation. I stayed out of the way, just like I'd promised. But I couldn't stop thinking about them. About Andrea's bright smile and how quickly it dimmed when her mother spoke sharply. About Dana's silence and those dark drawings. About Mrs. Willow herself, so cold, so controlled, moving through the house like a beautiful ghost. On the third morning, I woke to crying. I sat up in bed, disoriented. The clock read 6:47 a.m. The crying continued, a child's voice, high and distressed. I threw on a robe and opened my door. Andrea was sitting in the hallway outside her room, knees pulled to her chest, tears streaming down her face. Dana stood nearby, clutching her rabbit, looking torn between comfort and fear. "Andrea? Sweetheart, what's wrong?" She looked up at me with those huge blue eyes, now red and swollen. "I had a bad dream. Mommy's already gone, and Miss Catherine won't be here until 8, and Dana doesn't like me very much, and the tears came harder. I knelt beside her, my heart breaking. "Oh, honey, come here." She threw herself into my arms, sobbing against my shoulder. I held her, rubbing her back, murmuring soft words the way my own mother used to when I had nightmares. Over Andrea's head, I met Dana's eyes. The older girl watched us with an expression I couldn't read, something between longing and resentment. "Dana, would you like to come down for breakfast?" I asked gently. "I make really good pancakes." She hesitated, then shook her head and disappeared back into the bedroom, closing the door. But Andrea clung tighter. "Can I have pancakes? With chocolate chips." "As many chocolate chips as you want." We ended up spending the whole morning together. Andrea talked nonstop about her school, her friends, her art class, everything. She told me about New York City where they lived, about the big house with the pool, about her room that was painted pink with stars on the ceiling. She didn't mention her father, and I didn't ask. Dana eventually came downstairs around 10, drawn by the smell of pancakes and Andrea's laughter. She sat at the table silently, accepting food but not speaking. "Do you like pancakes too?" I asked her. A small nod. "Dana doesn't talk much," Andrea explained. "Mommy says she's adjusting." Adjusting to what? Andrea's face scrunched up, thinking. "I don't know exactly. But she came to live with us a year ago, and Mommy says we have to be patient because she's been through hard things." Adopted, I remembered Benny saying. Dana was adopted. I looked at the quiet 7-year-old, seeing her in a new light. "Well, Dana, you don't have to talk if you don't want to. But I'm glad you're here having pancakes with us." The tiniest smile ghosted across her face before disappearing. We spent the rest of the morning playing games. Andrea taught me an elaborate make-believe scenario involving princesses and dragons. Dana watched from the couch, still clutching her rabbit, but I noticed she moved closer as the game went on. "Can Dana's bunny be a dragon?" I suggested. Andrea gasped. "A bunny dragon? That's perfect." For the first time, Dana looked directly at me. She held out the rabbit hesitantly. "Mr. Fluffington would be honored to be a dragon," I said seriously, taking the stuffed animal and making it fly through the air with appropriate roaring sounds. Dana laughed. It was a small sound, barely more than a giggle, but Andrea's eyes went wide. She laughed. Dana laughed. She never laughs. I handed the rabbit back to Dana, whose smile had returned, still tiny, still fragile, but real. "Mr. Fluffington is a very good dragon," I told her. She nodded and whispered, so quietly I almost missed it. "Thank you." The front door opened at 6 p.m. sharp. Mrs. Willow entered like winter itself, all sharp edges and cold beauty, her coat dusted with snow from the flurries that had started that afternoon. She was on her phone, finishing a call. "I don't care what Peterson says. The numbers don't work, and I won't sign off on a project that's doomed to fail. Restructure the proposal and send it to me by tomorrow morning." She ended the call and finally looked up, only to freeze. The living room was a disaster. Blanket forts stretched between furniture, pillows were scattered across the floor, and in the middle of it all, Andrea was wearing a crown made of paper, Dana was wrapped in a sheet like a cape, and I was lying on the floor covered in stuffed animals. And then the Dragon Queen, that's Dana, used her magic fire breath to defeat the evil wizard. Andrea was explaining, dancing around. Mrs. Willow's expression was unreadable. "Mommy," Andrea ran to her. "We've been playing all day. Cassie knows the best games, and she made us pancakes with chocolate chips, and Dana talked. She actually talked. And Mr. Fluffington is a dragon now, and—" "Andrea, slow down." Mrs. Willow's voice was controlled, but I caught something underneath. Surprise? Concern? I scrambled to my feet, brushing animal fur from my dress. "Sorry about the mess. We got a bit carried away." Those dark blue eyes fixed on me, and I felt pinned like a butterfly on a board. Where was Miss Catherine? She had a family emergency. She called around noon to cancel. "And she didn't inform me?" "She said she tried, but your phone was off." Mrs. Willow's jaw tightened. "I see. And you took it upon yourself to watch my children?" "They were alone. I wasn't going to just. I don't recall requesting childcare services." The words were like a slap. I wasn't trying to. "Mommy, don't be mean." Andrea grabbed her mother's hand. "Cassie was really nice, and she made Dana smile." "Dana never smiles." Mrs. Willow looked down at her youngest daughter, then across the room at Dana, who was watching the exchange with wide eyes. Something shifted in her expression. So subtle, I might have imagined it. "Girls, go upstairs and wash up for dinner," she said quietly. "But now, please." They went, Andrea with reluctance, Dana with her usual silence. But at the doorway, Dana turned back and looked at me, then at her mother, then back at me. A plea in her eyes. "Don't fight." When they were gone, Mrs. Willow removed her coat and draped it over a chair with precise movements. She was still in her suit, charcoal gray today, with a white shirt underneath that made her pale skin seem almost luminous. "I apologize if I was rude," she said, not sounding apologetic at all. "I don't like surprises, and coming home to find my children in a stranger's care was unexpected." "I'm not a stranger. Your business partner is my sister."
You have reached this point. Please subscribe for more. Thank you.
You met my daughters 3 days ago. That's the definition of a stranger. I crossed my arms. Would you have preferred I ignore them? Let a 5-year-old and a 7-year-old fend for themselves all day? I would have preferred to be informed so I could make alternate arrangements. Your phone was off. Then you should have kept trying. I did. 6 times. She blinked, and for the first time, looked uncertain. "I was in meetings." "I know. Your daughters told me. They said you're always in meetings." Something dangerous flashed in her eyes. My parenting choices are not up for discussion. I wasn't. Furthermore, I don't appreciate strangers making judgments about my family based on a single day of... They were crying. The words burst out of me, louder than I intended. Mrs. Willow went very still. "Andrea had a nightmare this morning." I continued, quieter but no less intense. "She was sobbing in the hallway because you were already gone and the nanny wasn't there and she was scared. So yes, I took care of them. I made them breakfast, I played games with them, I made sure they felt safe and happy. And I'm sorry if that inconvenienced you, but I'm not sorry I did it." The silence stretched between us like a taut wire. Then Mrs. Willow said very softly, "She had a nightmare? About being lost. She said she couldn't find you." Something cracked in that perfect, controlled facade, just for a second, just long enough for me to see the woman beneath the ice. And in that moment, she didn't look cold at all. She looked broken. "Thank you," she said stiffly, "for taking care of them. It was kind of you." Then she turned and walked upstairs, her footsteps steady and sure, leaving me alone in the wreckage of our fort building, wondering what the hell had just happened. I didn't see Mrs. Willow again that night. She had dinner with the girls in their room. I heard their voices, muffled and distant. Around 9, I ventured into the hall to use the bathroom and heard her reading to them. Her voice was different when she read, Softer, warmer, with different character voices that made Andrea giggle and even drew what might have been a laugh from Dana. I stood outside the door, listening, feeling something twist in my chest. This was the same woman who'd looked at me like I was an intruder an hour ago. The same woman who was called the Ice Queen. But with her daughters, there were cracks in the ice, places where warmth leaked through. I wondered what it would take to shatter it completely. And then I wondered why I cared. You're not ready for this, I told myself firmly. You're broken. You're healing. You don't need another complicated woman in your life. But as I lay in bed that night, I couldn't stop thinking about dark blue eyes and the way Mrs. Willow's voice had softened when she said, "Thank you." The next morning, I woke to a knock on my door. "Come in," I called, expecting Andrea. Mrs. Willow entered instead. She was dressed more casually than I'd seen her. Dark jeans, a cream-colored sweater, her long black hair pulled back in a low ponytail. Without the armor of her business suits, she looked younger. Still striking, still intimidating, but somehow more human. "Good morning," she said formally. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." I sat up, suddenly aware I was wearing an old t-shirt and shorts. "No, it's fine." "Is everything okay?" "Miss Catherine has quit. Her family emergency is apparently permanent. She's moving to Florida to care for her mother." "Oh, which means I'm without childcare for the next 2 weeks." She stood very straight, her expression giving nothing away. "I'm interviewing replacement candidates, but it will take time. In the interim, I have several crucial meetings I cannot miss. I find myself in the position of needing to ask a favor." I waited. "Would you be willing to watch Andrea and Dana during the day? I would compensate you, of course. Market rate for childcare services plus expenses." "You don't have to pay me." Her eyebrows raised slightly. "I always pay for services rendered. They're not a service. They're kids, and I like them." "Nevertheless." "Mrs. Willow," I interrupted, then hesitated. "Can I call you Jax?" Mrs. Willow feels so formal. She seemed taken aback. "I suppose that would be acceptable." "Jax, then." "Look, I don't need payment. I have nowhere to go and nothing to do. Spending time with Andrea and Dana is honestly the best thing that's happened to me in weeks. They're sweet, they're fun, and they make me feel like maybe I'm not completely useless." Something shifted in her expression. Concern? Curiosity? Useless is not a word I would use to describe someone who made my daughter laugh for the first time in months. "Dana doesn't laugh often?" "Never. Not since she came to us." Jax's voice was carefully neutral. "She's been through significant trauma. We're working with therapists, but progress has been slow. Yesterday was the first time I've heard her sound genuinely happy. She just needs time. And patience. Which I apparently lack." It wasn't self-pity, just a statement of fact. "You work a lot," I said carefully. "That doesn't make you a bad mother. Doesn't make me a good one either." She looked away, toward the window where gray morning light filtered through. "I built my company from nothing. 17-hour days, 7 days a week for years. It's all I know how to do. But children need more than financial security and a nice house. They need..." She trailed off. "They need you," I finished softly. She looked back at me, and for just a moment, I saw past all the walls, saw the exhaustion, the guilt, the desperate love for her daughters that she didn't know how to show. "Yes," she said. "They do. Which is why I need your help. Please. Not as a business transaction, but as..." She struggled with the word. "As a favor. Between friends," I suggested. I was going to say acquaintances, but if you prefer friends, I won't object. I smiled. It felt strange on my face, like a muscle I'd forgotten how to use. "I'd love to watch them. Really. It'll be good for all of us." "Thank you, Cassie." She said my name like it was a foreign word she was trying out. "I'll write down emergency contacts and important information. Andrea has a mild peanut allergy, nothing severe, but we avoid them. Dana needs her anxiety medication with lunch. I'll show you how much. They both need to be in bed by 8, and they each have their own nighttime routines that..." "Jax," I interrupted gently. "I've got this." We'll figure out together." She nodded, but I could see the tension in her shoulders, the way her hands wanted to clench. This was a woman who'd spent years controlling everything in her environment, and now she was being forced to trust a stranger with the two people who mattered most.
"One more thing," she said.
Andrea can be exuberant. She'll push boundaries, test limits. She needs structure. And Dana needs gentleness, patience. She's been hurt before, badly, and she doesn't trust easily. If she acts out or shuts down, don't take it personally. It's not about you. Okay. Jax studied me for a long moment, those dark blue eyes searching for something. "Why are you really doing this?" "I told you."
"No."
The real reason. People don't typically volunteer to watch strangers' children out of pure altruism. What do you get out of this? The question caught me off guard with its bluntness. But maybe I owed her honesty. "I get to feel like myself again," I said quietly, before everything fell apart. When I still thought I knew who I was and what I wanted. "Your daughters make me feel not broken." Something in her expression softened, just a fraction, just enough. "Then perhaps we're helping each other," she said. She left me with a folder full of information, emergency contacts, and instructions. But as the door closed behind her, I realized we'd just had the longest, most honest conversation of my life with someone I barely knew. And for the first time since Seattle, since Diana, since everything collapsed, I felt like maybe, just maybe, there was a reason I'd ended up here in this house with this strange, cold, beautiful woman and her two little girls who needed someone to make them laugh. Maybe broken pieces could still fit together, even if they'd been shattered in completely different ways.